Hello, I'm Dapper Dan Gavoston, and I own every issue of Amazing Spider-Man, including the annuals, which definitely count.
And I'm Mischievous Marchinacchio, and I too own every issue of Amazing Spider-Man, but Dan, as I always say, the annuals don't count.
Well, welcome everybody to the Amazing Spider Talk, the show where two fans and collectors uncover the strange, fun, and fascinating history of the Spider-Man comic universe. As always, a thank you to all of you for joining us for this review episode of the Amazing Spider Talk.
If you want to swing along with us on our journey through Spidey's past, present, and future, subscribe to Amazing Spider Talk on your favorite podcast app. Every other week, we put out a mainline episode of our flagship show, and sprinkled in between, we review new comics as well as interview some of the greatest Spider-Man creators of yesterday and today. This is the perfect time to start listening. Today on the show, Dan and I are going to be discussing Amazing Spider-Man Volume 5, number 81, entitled Beyond Chapter 7. This issue was written by Saladin Ahmed, with art by Carlos Gomez, colors by Bryan Valenza, with a cover by Arthur Adams and Alejandro Sanchez Rodriguez, and of course letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. This issue was first released on December 15th, 2021. Dan, we are catching up on our reviews because of holidays and everything else in between. So why don't we get into how we felt issue 81 went?
Yeah, sure. Before we even...
Hold on a second.
What's going on there, Mark?
You hearing that?
Yeah.
Ugh. That is my son playing with the hose. Shit.
All right, Mark, why don't you go and deal with that, and I'll keep everybody on here entertained for a little bit. All right.
Yeah,
Mark is going to go and wrangle his son, who I think is very keen on disrupting our show today. If anybody in the chat has any questions as we go into the new year, I'd love to answer them while we wait here for Mark to return. His kind of pestering son here. Mr. Comics says he's free to guest host. Of course. Well, if it was so easy, we would swap in and out here. But I think we've just got a son that wants his father's attention a little bit here, and it should be done. Let's see here. He says, I have 10 issues left to go to complete my ASM run. That's awesome. Are they the first 10 issues of ASM? How front loaded is that collection? Oh, Alex is down to 3. Oh my gosh. Like, this is great. I think this would be like the audience for the show that is the most Amazing Spider-Man comics in recording. I'm missing the first 3. Well, I guess those are the 3 to miss. I'll be honest, my issue 2 is pretty bad. Well, the inside of it is fine. The cover's got like a corner missing. Mr. Comics' lowest need is 23. Well, what are you waiting for? Go finish that collection, man. Get that done. That's something you can clean up easily, it sounds like. All right, we got Mark coming back here.
Got a grumpy 10-year-old with COVID. We all got COVID. Okay, you want me to redo the today on the show part?
Let's go back. Thanks, everybody. You're getting a little bit of how the sausage is made. But thanks for hanging around here. Mark, why don't you take us back a little bit?
Yes. So today on the show, Dan and I are going to be discussing Amazing Spider-Man Volume 5, number 81, entitled Beyond Chapter 7. This issue was written by Saladin Ahmed, with art by Carlos Gomez, colors by Bryan Valenza, with a cover by Arthur Adams and Alejandro Sanchez Rodriguez, and of course letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. This issue was first released on December 15th, 2021. Dan, we got a bunch of reviews to do here, so why don't we just get right into it?
Yeah, sure. We're going to start off how we kind of always do with our summary of the issue. So I'm going to do my best to kind of get into all the details in case you didn't read the comic or you need a bit of a reminder since it's been almost a month since this comic came out, because Lord knows they decided to release 4 issues of Amazing Spider-Man in December. So, that's just kind of how we have to operate here.
Great timing, guys. because that's December is the time where people are just focused on
Absolutely,
comics,
especially with the Omicron variant traveling around. But anyway, here we go. Amazing Spider-Man, Volume 5, number 81. A monster called Rhizome is attacking Brooklyn, and Beyond is preparing to send Ben to deal with it. But before Ben leaves, Marcus reminds him that if he sees the Brooklyn Spider-Man, a.k.a. Miles Morales, he's to remind him that he needs to stop calling himself Spider-Man due to Beyond's copyright on the name. But outfitted with a new rocket glider gadget and Janine's watchful support, Ben speeds over the East River to Brooklyn. But there, when he arrives in Bed-Stuy, he finds the fight already over and Miles already on the scene. Miles notices that Ben is different than Peter, and they briefly fight. Ben explains he's working for Beyond with Peter's blessing, which annoys Miles, but he's quickly forgiven when citizens need saving. Rhizome returns to the fight, and they team up to take him down, revealing a man at its core, outfitted with tech from the Assessor, a villain from the Miles Morales series. The two depart on good terms, without Ben pushing Miles to give up the Spider-Man name. But when Ben returns to Beyond, he finds an upset Maxine Danger, who has reprimanded Marcus because Ben didn't enforce the Spider-Man trademark. Maxine, again, lectures Ben on the amount of resources that Beyond has invested in him being Spider-Man. Maxine is then approached by a Beyond tech support employee and informed that Doc Ock has been digging into Beyond and their secrets. She holds a canister of the Rhizome creature and is prepared to use it. And that's the best I could do on Amazing Spider-Man Volume 5, number 81. Mark, let's get into our thoughts on this issue overall. I largely thought that this issue was a bit of a missed opportunity. What did you think of this issue 81?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, we kind of came in with the new twist of having a confrontation with Miles Morales and the battle for the trademark, if you will. But I just feel like we're kind of circling the same plot beats that we've been circling for the last 6 issues, and frankly, this is kind of endemic of what we saw when it was just one creator working on this book too. We're really just repeating beats and circling drain a bit and not really moving anything forward. And that's starting to get really concerning for me in terms of the editorial direction of these books.
Yeah, I think that's specifically around, in this case, Maxine and Janine. I feel like we've gotten the same conversation from them for 5 or 6 issues straight, like you said, and it's just kind of boring at this point, and the appeal of this book should be the Miles confrontation. And I feel like there's so many opportunities here to actually leverage who Miles and Ben are in the 616 universe. That could have drawn some similarities between the two. That could have been fun, right? What does it mean for both of these guys to be kind of backup Spider-Men who also have the name of Spider-Man? Maybe they could have bonded over that, comparison, but instead it just feels like another kind of throwaway fight a random bad guy to promote another book tie-in. And, I'm enjoying some of the Assessor stuff. I do think the Miles Morales book leans way too heavily on the one villain that they created that is actually interesting, instead of trying to create a whole group of villains that are interesting.
Right.
But that was the least interesting part of what I thought we could get out of this, and it also undermines that I don't really understand the whole Beyond corporate Spider-Man thing, because Ben doesn't really seem to be on board with that. Although he's happy to take their tech. But it just feels like such a half measure. If I were going to do this book, why not have Spider-Man embrace that and see what that means to actually enforce that and hold it over Miles's head. Instead, he just kind of rolls over and we get a repeated beat again.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is a really big reflection about, what it means to have quality editors when it comes to managing, especially a triple ship book like Spider-Man. Well, quadruple ship this month, because like you go back to Brand New Day, and yes, you have the rotating creative teams, but like I don't know, to me, like those books always there was always a cohesiveness to it, where even though each creative team kind of brought their own little secret sauce to the mix, it all felt connected in a way, and it felt like it was all progressively moving the pieces forward on the board. And what I'm starting to see here now that we're 7 chapters in, and I think that's a fair amount to start assessing, is as we bring in new creative teams, it's like every creative team when they come on, it's like they're writing beyond for the first time, like and you feel like we're resetting plot beats and overall moments, because it's like, well, for them this is their point one, like oh, we got to set up beyond is evil, we got to set up that they're gonna hold something over Ben's head that we know is something, but we don't really have all the information yet, so we can't fully assess why Ben still feels beholden to this. Like they're screwing with who we the audience know are other good guys in terms of Miles in this case, but like again, like to what end? I mean, are they gonna like wipe Miles off the face of the earth? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I think Ben even makes a joke about that. Like, what do you want me to do to him? And it's like they're, and it's still, it still feels like very toothless, corporate stoogey threats. But like, are we to believe that these threats can be elevated? I don't know, because we've been kind of circling these same themes now for 7 issues. So, I hate to constantly beat up on this editorial team, but like, when we basically got out of a storyline that, prattled on for 3 years, never really moving the pieces forward until like the last few issues with the whole Kindred thing, you kind of see a pattern developing here, which is maybe, not having a tight control on the management of this book is suffering the creators, because I think, on their own, these creators are all good. We like Jed MacKay on Black Cat. We like Saladin on Miles, and even, I'm not saying that they're all perfect, but like now I feel like these stories are starting to kind of wane in their quality here, because we're starting to see, oh, we're not really doing anything progressively forward together as a unit here, and that's a little frustrating.
Yeah. I mean, and regarding the Miles thing, like I felt like there was more drama on Twitter over Miles's role in the Amazing Spider-Man universe than there was in this comic. Like people were arguing, like, well, okay, so we're going to put Ben as the lead role in a Spider-Man book while we sideline Peter, and a lot of people
Right.
are saying, well, why not Miles? Like, why not use this as an opportunity to put Miles in instead of, Ben randomly, right? So like,
Right.
you
Yeah.
you could have used this issue to address that meta text and criticism,
Yeah.
like why wasn't it Miles that got to take over this
Yeah.
book? And instead,
Yeah.
like, I don't feel like we engage with that in any way, and I feel like that story is like it's right there. Like
Yeah.
Saladin Ahmed, maybe didn't have the foresight to know how people would react to the Beyond news, but like, man, I don't think it would take a genius to like actually like lean into like that criticism a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like Saladin Ahmed, we haven't talked about him much on the show because we don't talk about Miles's book really here, and this is, I mean, for its credit, like it's nice to see a book in Amazing Spider-Man actually acknowledge the existence of Miles as a character in his own kind of pocket Spider-Man universe of Brooklyn, which I think is like a good way for him to like coexist with Peter, is to give him his own
Yeah.
realm in Brooklyn.
Yeah. His own territory.
Yeah, what do you think about like Saladin Ahmed as a writer in the Miles book? And then I guess the follow up would be like, how do we feel about him? Any one of these people could walk out of this taking over Amazing Spider-Man. How do you feel about him? Is he a creator you would see ready to step up into a role like that?
I mean, honestly, not entirely. I mean, I think that I think he had a very challenging task in taking over Miles, who at that point had only had one person work on him, which was the person who created him, who I think, frankly, and this is no disrespect to Brian Michael Bendis, who's a legend, but I think was just treated his creation a little too preciously, and protectively in terms of how he wanted him betrayed in the rest of the comic book universe, if you will. So, and I think, in that regard, Ahmed has done well with kind of rebooting Miles in a way that it doesn't feel like a hard reboot. Like it was very subtle, but like the book reads a little more. What's the word I'm looking for? It just feels a little more grounded again.
Yes.
If you know what I mean. Like it's just like, okay, like this reads as someone who is new to the role of Spider-Man, still figuring things out and going through the hiccups that come with that. That and I don't think Bendis was getting across especially towards the end of his time with Marvel.
I
With
don't
that
think
said,
Saladin Ahmed is a great plotter. I don't
no.
love like the ideas that he kind of brings to the plot, but I really love his character oriented stuff. Like I think his best work on the book are issues that are like Kid Who Collects issues. There's one, I think it's like issue 25, where he like Miles
Mhm.
meets like this young kid that's into fashion and like allows him to redesign his costume, and I thought that was a really sweet issue. So like there's a
Yeah.
sentimentality to Saladin Ahmed's writing that I really enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, even the Clone Saga. I mean, I liked how like each clone had a very distinct personality, and of course, it was like kind of like the rejected brother that ended up being kind of the heart and soul of Miles escaping from that situation. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that shows a connection to character that I don't think is innate with every writer when they come to this medium. But yeah, in terms of, I think the broader plot strokes. I mean, like, I'm not trying to sound pretentious here because we're a Spider-Man podcast, but I feel like Spider-Man, you do kind of have to walk the line between that intimacy and the friendly neighborhood aspects, but also like, I mean, there have been so many grand epic stories in Spider-Man history. Like, you kind of have to find a way to marry the two without it going too big or being too small. And my concern, especially after reading this issue and then the next issue, is that I feel like Ahmed would be too small for this book over the long haul. I just don't think he's got the big enough ideas to kind of elevate Peter's universe in a way that would really, I don't know, like feel true to the core of Amazing Spider-Man. Maybe as a B book, maybe he could do Web of, you know what I mean? Like, but like the way Web of used to be. But like that's kind of where I would pigeonhole him right now. I don't think he's ready for the leap just yet.
I agree with that. I think his character stuff is great. I think in terms of big ideas, I think he struggles, and we'll definitely talk about this in our review of the next issue. I think he struggles with the genre of that Spider-Man exists in, because when he brings in high concept ideas, they're typically from like genres that I don't think mesh with his kind of like grounded character work. Like even in the Clone Saga, the rejected brother that's like made out of goop that has kind of hung around for the next 15 or so issues. I'm probably exaggerating that
Right.
number. That feels very incongruous to me with the grounded Miles story, that there is a shape
Right.
shifting, goopy Miles out there. And,
Right.
he's making
Right.
it work, but like, it just seems like maybe a step or two too extreme to introduce into this
Right.
grounded world. And we can definitely talk about that in the next issue that we review. But I think he's still trying to figure out like what kind of things. I mean, I think about like Amazing Spider-Man issue 2, where like it put
Mm.
Peter up against like aliens.
The
Yeah,
Tinkerer.
right.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you can do that and it can work for the character, but like it's not really the genre that Spider-Man should be operating in. And so
No.
that's kind of how I feel about like Saladin Ahmed as a writer, as much as I do like and appreciate his work, and often think that the Miles Morales book is like one of the best Spider-Man books being published at the moment. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, do we think, does he have a good voice for like Ben slash Peter? Like, do we feel like that rings true here?
That's hard to say. Yeah, I don't, like, I don't, e- I like, I don't know if anybody has a voice for Ben yet outside of Zeb Wells on this arc. I got to be honest with you. Like, I feel like everyone is kind of struggling with it outside of Zeb Wells, which makes sense because he's the kind of the idea creator here and doing this. But yeah, I don't hear Ben as being distinct here in any kind of way.
Yeah, Cody Ziegler is the closest, I think, to Zeb Wells that the kind of rest of the team has come.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing stood out here particularly strong for Ben. Well, hey, Mark, if people wanted to talk about this a little bit more, where might they be able to do so?
Well, hundreds of listeners like you hang out in our community of Spider-Man fans on Slack. The Amazing Spider Slack community is absolutely free to join, and you can jump into active conversations with awesome people about collecting, conventions, movies, new comics, old comics, and more.
Yeah, Mark, I hang out there all the time. This week, I think in the kind of wake of Spider-Man No Way Home, I mean, why not get into a little bit of MCU hot takes? We've been kind of dishing on all of our MCU film hot takes. I mean, there's some stuff in there that I can't really believe. Like people saying that Chris Pine didn't fit the role of Captain America initially. I mean, what? So come on in there and dish with us on all of our MCU film hot takes. I mean, and in a respectful environment. That's the best thing is on Twitter, if you said any of the things that we say in this Slack, you would be just destroyed. But here we politely acknowledge that we all have strange feelings about one or two MCU films. So anyway, if you want to join our awesome Spider-Man community, just follow the link in the description to our Slack and be sure to say hi. And once you're there, be sure to let us know what you thought of this very episode that you're listening to at this moment. So, Mark, getting back into Amazing Spider-Man Volume 5, number 81, I want to talk about Maxine Danger because, okay, so there's a couple things that are going on here. First, the end of this issue seems to be kind of the first acknowledgement that Beyond is at least willing to put villains into the field to kind of get what they want done. I mean, we had long suspected that the UFOs might have been hired by Beyond to kind of knock out Peter from the game. Right. And here we see Maxine kind of holding up this canister with the rhizome, a bit of the rhizome thing in it. Now, I'm reluctant to say that she's working with the Assessor from the Miles Morales comics because I just don't think that that's actually happening. Although the Assessor does seem like something that Beyond might, have created if you read, Agents of Hate at all. But yeah, I don't know. To me, this was okay, we're seeing this about Maxine, but I still feel like Maxine is totally toothless overall. She keeps yelling at Ben about how much they're investing in him, but until she actually puts some limitations on him, we've heard that she's reprimanding Marcus, but give me something to actually think that she can, she's got some bite with that bark other than her haircut. Give me something to this character. Your thoughts?
I would say it's almost like she's just, talking about how Ben is going to pay for his sins over and over again. I'm not trying to be glib, but there is a pattern here. You're right. I mean, I feel that if we're truly trying to, and I'm going to just go for the pun here, establish the danger level here, then she's got to do something more than what she's doing right now. Just talking about, we got resources and, I'm going to give you a very stern letter rebuking your actions. And it's going to be vaguely ominous. And then we're going to have, the what do you call it? The two, not the sister, Courtney and, God, this might be brain fog, Dan. Help me out here. From the two people that are following.
Colleen Wing and Misty Knight.
Yes, thank you. Oh my God.
Those hugely memorable characters.
Yes, Colleen Wing and Misty Knight. We're gonna have them show up and again kind of raise their eyebrows at Maxine Danger, but nothing is happening, and you're kind of all right, well then do something. I feel like Scott Evil, just shoot him. What do you stop talking and do something that's more than threatening if you truly have power to do something, and it's just gonna make the ultimate reveal here ring less true and feel hollow because, we really don't have a threat level beyond implied threat. It's everything is just kind of suggested and ominously toned, but it's just not working. And again, like, not to keep beating this drum, but it's reminding me of Kindred. It's like, okay, like, what is really that special about Kindred then? Like, because you just don't seem to want to move on it and make him cross that line or whatever it is, like, so we're seeing that here. So like, is Beyond, we've known Beyond has been, I don't want to call it the big bad, but like, we've known that they're not good since the beginning, essentially. Like, it's not a secret. And I think I even said that as a good thing in my first, in our first review of this series, which was that, oh, it's going to be nice to just have a villain be a villain and not have to like play these games of, well, how far are they going to go? But we're doing it again. So like, make up your mind, Spider Office. How bad is Maxine Danger? Because as of right now, it just kind of feels kind of blah.
Agreed. And I won't say anything more because I think you said it all there. And sausage making a little bit. We've read issues 8 and 9 of this run, and I think that still holds true. Two issues past this. What do we think about Carlos Gomez as the artist here? He's been kind of bounced around the Amazing Spider-Man office and on a number of books. I believe he even did a few issues of Miles, over the past few months. To me, I think I associate him with Miles's book. So he's got more of a kind of like YA styling. It's like very friendly and clean, and that's good. I think he's a really strong storyteller. What do you think?
I mean, to be totally honest, I mean, I didn't find anything particularly visually memorable here. And, especially, since you've already admitted the sausage making in terms of like what kind of followed on this book, I mean, which definitely had a more visually memorable style, the next two issues that followed here. But I mean, it's fine. I would give it, I would rate the art fine. It worked, I guess, like you said, it kind of matched the vibe of the Miles book. And this was, it is the Miles writer with Miles in it. So I guess it's good to kind of carry that tone and style over. But, I don't feel like it really elevated the story in any kind of meaningful way.
Absolutely. I totally agree. So let's give our rating on this issue. So, Mark, I'm giving this one a flat C. This is about as average as they come.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, like, and the way I was kind of going on about it, you might think I'd go lower, but no, it's a totally average issue. I guess for me, again, we talked earlier about the promise and opportunity of both this issue individually, but also I think of Beyond in general, and we're starting to see the cracks in the armor and things are starting to peter out. So a C at this point is kind of disappointing for me because I felt like we were in being above territory for a while, and it's just kind of fallen off. So anyway,
it's a little disappointing because, like, to me, Saladin Ahmed was a guy that won an Eisner for his Black Bolt. This is his first shot. We've got like not that like it being a person of color automatically elevates the storytelling, but like that's an exciting opportunity for a book that's been so dominated by white men writing the character. He gets to bring Miles in, and I just feel like none of that flavor like really was here to kind of spice this up a little bit, like this could have really had a different vibe to it, and I feel like it's pretty ho-hum.
I would say that when they initially announced the creative team, he was one of the people I was most excited about getting a shot here. And to your point, it just kind of felt like, oh, okay. I mean, so he's here. I'm not necessarily feeling like, like you said, we're getting a preview of who might take over the book or who could take over the book at some point, even if it's not the next person who takes over the book. And I don't feel like we got a definitive answer here with Ahmed. So.
Absolutely. Okay. So, if you do find this show that we're doing right now entertaining and valuable, the best way you can support us is by recommending Amazing Spider Talk to a friend. We're still a very small podcast with a very dedicated listenership, but it would help if more people knew about us, and that would be awesome if you guys could help us out. But if you're able to, the next thing you could do is help us by becoming a member on the Patreon.
We can only bring you this content with the support of our Patreon members, and we owe the show's success to every single one of them. And we are constantly making exclusive content for our members.
Yeah, so why not take the $3.99, the price of a new comic sometimes, and put it towards a month subscription to support the show and start receiving our Patreon content. That way you'll hear our Patreon exclusive review podcast on every new issue of Amazing Spider-Man the same week it comes out, instead of waiting for it to arrive in our public podcasting feed.
And if you contribute $10 a month, you gain access to exclusive artwork from famous Spider-Man artists commissioned exclusively for our members. This season we'll be mailing out a print by artist Ron Friends. He's created a lost page of The Kid Who Collects Spider-Man for us, which was inked by Brett Breeding. This page depicts Tim and Spidey sharing laughs over Tim's Spider-Man comic collection. Plus, every episode we release a new episode-specific desktop background created for us by artist Nick Cagnetti for our patrons to enjoy.
And Mark, if I could pan my camera to the left, there's a giant stack here of mail packages to ship out. So that really awesome print is going to be coming in the mail any day now. I'm just kind of waiting due to the supply chain for a couple of things to arrive at my doorstep so I can get it all shipped out. But yeah, it's the new year, and we know it's a hard time for everybody, as it is for us too. So we appreciate anyone who supports the show just by listening and sharing. But if you do have the means, please join our Patreon to support our continued existence. Just follow the link in the description. And again, a thank you to everybody who is already supporting us. It is a huge deal and really helps us continue doing the show and making it better year after year. So we thank you as well.
But alas, Dan, it is that time, which is time for the good things like our show to come to an end. So we want to say thank you to you, the listeners and viewers, for tuning in to this episode of The Amazing Spider Talk.
Yeah, this episode was edited by Rick Coase with production support from Andy Myers. Our artwork comes handcrafted by artists Ron Friends, Sal Buscema, and Ray Sumser. Our theme songs were produced by Rylan Bojack, Tony Thaxton, and Spider Madge. Remember, this episode was originally released on Patreon as a live stream hangout with us back when the comic was first released. So if you'd like to help support our show's continued existence and these reviews while joining us on a live stream, why not head on over to our Patreon and sign up? But Mark, we've got to bring it to an end, which means we've got to end our show with our motto. So Mark, until you try to enforce your copyright on the word dapper in my name, what's our motto?
I don't know if Dapper Mark works, but that's a good idea. Anyway, our motto, of course, is, with great podcasts, there must also come the amazing Spider Talk.
And hey, if you are hanging out with us on Patreon right now, we're going to move over to our next review in a few moments. So head on over there and get ready to join us for our review of Amazing Spider-Man issue 82. We'll see you in a few minutes, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Too many who know the angles, uncover and untangle all the questions and the webs left out to tangle. Being 1962, last Wednesday's afternoon, they'll bend your ears with reckless self-abandon. The Amazing Spider